One of the most underrated levers in talent strategy. That's how we pay people.
You can use compensation strategy beyond just thinking of it as a 2-week payroll. It's a strategy for attraction. It's a strategy for experience. It's helping people on the front line with that financial stress.
Yesterday's story was flexible work. Today's story is flexible pay, fortnightly, bi-weekly. Like, when did you figure out that was broken?
It's a need-based service, not a want-based service is how we think about it. So there's a retention play there from financial, but it's also like, don't fuck up my payroll. Please don't.
Welcome to What the FTE. I am losing my voice, but I am Haney McLeod, and today we're digging into one of the most underrated levers in talent strategy. That's how we pay people. Yesterday's story was flexible work. Today's story is flexible pay. My guest is the one and only Sean Paulseth of ZayZoon, a company taking a completely different approach to compensation strategy in a fast-changing talent market and seeing surprising results with the organizations they partner with. Sean, welcome to the show, man. Good to see you.
Great to see you too. Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here.
It's exciting to have you. I've been a long-time fan of what you guys are doing at ZayZoon.
It's an exciting time for the company as a Canadian company that launched obviously in the US market originally many years ago and then relaunching, obviously strange Canadian company, and then launching the US and now relaunching back in Canada and having that impact starting July, I think it was July 2024. It's been a great run. So I'm excited to be part of it.
I remember talking to Darcy and Tate those years ago, and I was like, oh, we need this. Like, sorry, not in Canada. I was like, yeah. But why? So this is like, I mean, this is big. I mean, you guys are going to take this market by storm.
That's the whole thing, right? Like I think, and this is pre Sean era with Darcy and Tate, is when was a good time to relaunch in Canada, right? Like when, and with any company, when is it a good time to relaunch or launch in a specific region or segment? And I think all things kind of pointed to the challenges that we solve for in the US are fairly similar to the challenges that we solve for in Canada, right? Like there are a lot of similarities. There are nuances, of course, not going to not say that, but there are a lot of financial wellness challenges across frontline work, right? Like we think about mental health, we think about physical health, we think about benefits that adhere to that. We don't talk a lot about financial health and financial stress, right? Like it's kind of a hidden issue that we don't want to talk about, right? That's why there's all these other solutions out there for that target those markets that I should probably not say are a little more on the predatory side, but that's what we kind of see. We saw in the economy, a lot of our great partners with Scotiabank and other payroll companies are saying you can use compensation strategy beyond just thinking of it as a 2-week payroll. It's a strategy for attraction. It's a strategy for experience. It's helping people on the front line with that financial stress, So, we ended up relaunching it. It's been going great.
I mean, but talk to me about that. Like, I mean, tell me about the moment that you realized that, payday, monthly, fortnightly, biweekly, like when did you figure out that was broken?
Yeah, really good question. I think about all the times of when I had my first even couple jobs, you're out on your own for the first time. Maybe you just graduated school. Maybe it's your first job and you have rent for the first time. And I remember thinking, oh, I'm not getting paid for another 2 weeks. Like I need money right now for groceries and specific things, right? I think about times when I could have used, or emergency came up where I could have used that money instead of waiting for that monthly or typical 2-week cycle, because a lot of people just thought, okay, that's just how the world works. Like, why do we not pay every day? And there's, of course, implications to Canadian banks and banks in general and how payroll works from a software standpoint and how they make money behind the scenes, like through interest and all of that. So a lot of it's just looking back and I was like, wait, why do we do a bi-weekly pay? Like, why do we do the monthly? And then if you think of it and distill it to specific industries, like the hourly folk that are doing all the hard work on the front line and then representing these brands and talking to customers every day, if something came up like a car breakdown or something like that, or you have your family, like how are you going to make ends meet? Particularly when things like think inflation, think all these other things, macroeconomic trends that impact that. So I think there wasn't just one moment. I think I started to piece it together when I was thinking about ZayZoon and on-demand paying compensation strategy generally and thinking there must be a better way, right? There must be a better way out there to access at least a portion of it to help you. But that centers around kind of financial wellness as like a whole different category now, like how we think about that for our employees and how profound impact we can once we address that and the challenges that come with it.
Well, I keep hearing stats about the number of people that are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yes.
And I think I haven't really thought about it until right now, but this seems like a really good solution for those people to not end up with predatory interest and payday loans.
Totally, right? Like we look at the US, I think when we looked at it in 2025 and all our customers, the amount of Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck is in the 50, I think it's about 58%, and Canada's fairly similar, right? 56%. Now that concentration is going to be in the deskless type of hourly worker. But I also believe, because I think you and I probably know people that live paycheck to paycheck and have decent salaries. It's almost like an education is needed in regarding just financial wellness in general, which I just don't think is out there, right? Like, unless you've gone to school for economics, and like, there's just not a lot of, even if you have, like, there's not a lot of information around financial resources of how to get out of that, because all of these tools and all of these other secondary products out there are centered around them making money off you. So they're not necessarily with the best. And I'm not going to shout out anything, but like, it's not necessarily customer centric. It's how they're going to make money off you for an interest on not being able to pay back things. And that's why some of these payday loans being, I guess, the most severe at the opposite end of the spectrum of predatory, but there's a tons of them in there that really aren't advantageous for that customer to utilize. And then it's really hard to get out of it, right? Like, and then that's when you see that paycheck to paycheck, because you're just constantly trying to get out of that hole, and you get stuck in these ruts. And like, how do you then get out of that, right? Like, that is fundamentally the challenge that we see, and we all talk about it, but we just don't really talk about innovation or talk about strategies. And like, there's just so much correlation between the stress that can come from someone who's about $100 away from being completely broke and having to put food on the table, with mental health and physical health, and how you show up to your work and how you communicate with customers, right? Like, it's just so all interconnected. It's just something that has not really been on the forefront for some strategies in the past.
Well, it's wild when you think about it. You know, you could have a PhD in, physics, you'd be incredibly intelligent, and no one's ever taught you how to file your taxes, or, how to effectively use debt, or how to budget. You might be able to build a reactor, but you can't, you don't have those skills. It's crazy. I mean, like, when you think about it, what we learn in school. So like,
right.
I mean, what kind of real world results are you seeing from this?
Yeah, and I think we've taken a unique approach to this beyond what it is from we call it, there's different acronyms out there, right? There's the earned wage access, which is heavily used in the US. There's on-demand pay that we've heard. There's flexible pay. You hear all, like, to your point earlier, there's a lot about just flexible work, flexible remote work, you name it. Flexibility is a big term. I think that some of the feedback that we've seen, at least from the Canadian market as we've relaunched here and works with some of the larger ones, is there's a fierce race for talent in some of these industries. We think hospitality, we think healthcare, home care. These people are on the front line, busting their ass and working long hours. And if I work for home care and I'm going to house, it's not like, from a organizational standpoint, we can pay them more. I mean, if it was a perfect world, we could all be paid $150K and we'd have great benefits, but unfortunately that's just not the case. It's not a perfect system. So how can we adhere to that market and that frontline workforce that directly impacts a company's bottom line, right? Like, the more people in home care that I serve and I see and I show up in a positive manner and show a great experience, I think even retail, anyone who's kind of interacting with customers, call centers, you name it, how are we adhering to that person to make sure that they're showing up for their best self and they're not thinking about, oh my God, if I have like something, if my car breaks down on the way to my next customer, I'm not going to be able to make ends meet on the way home, right? So like, when we think about what we've gone live, and I'll just use some examples, there's a big hospital and healthcare system in Vancouver that we work with, is that there's a fierce race for talent in some of these industries, and they're going up against things like gig workers. and the gig economy where people are getting paid right away. I may take a shift here and there at the hospital, but I can go and Uber Eats as a second job. And they actually came to us and said, hey, look, like we're getting feedback from our employees saying if we had the ability to access just a portion, because we only allow a portion, we don't allow people to take out their full paycheck. We think it's counterintuitive to the message of financial wellness and that being at the ethos. But if I was able as an employee at this hospital take out money, I wouldn't need that second job because I just need it for, let's say, gas and groceries, common things, right? And if I just had a portion of that, I would be able to not have to take a second job, therefore spend more time with my family, spend more time at home, be less stressed because I could make ends meet because I took a portion of what I've earned. It's not like an advancing. It's like I've earned that. And this is all automated in a very easy app. And then on top of that, there's free resources for financial education and resources, to your point, where there's not a lot of that out there in terms of benefits and just general knowledge, where I can actually educate myself, but also get a portion of that. Then I don't need that second job, right? And I don't need that second job. I'm more engaged at work. And in some cases, it actually means I have shift uptake, where I actually take an additional shift, therefore creating a better system with retention and engagement from a turnover perspective. So that's what we see. Like, I think there's different use cases out there. I think people are now using it in job descriptions to be like, hey, you can get a portion of what you've earned and like you attract more applicants. But I think of the more impactful is like the employee experience every day, how they show up and their stress levels and everything like that. So we hear a lot of great stories and feedback from different industries, but it's all very positive, right? And I think we have a different view of it from other vendors, is that you want to make sure that there's a portion, but also create an entire great experience with the app where there's tons of, I can now save money if I'm in my 20s, I'm saving or putting money through H&R Block because we have a partnership there. So I can save money through taxes through our app where we have a partnership with H&R Block. So there's a number of kind of like adjacent services there just centered around helping people manage their money better, educate themselves, and eventually save money, of course.
Sean, that is awesome. There is a lot of like, financial security, but do you guys give people any kind of, I don't know, instant gratification? Like, how, like, it would be awesome that like, if I worked in a job where say I got commission, or, I worked overtime to like be able to get access to that. So I got that like kind of instant gratification. Even if I couldn't access all of it, it was like, oh, I need money tomorrow. Like I'm going to bust my butt because I know I'm going to get access to it, instead of like, oh, I got to wait a month to get access to this money, when like, really I'm like busting my butt and doing double shifts so that, I can get money now to pay those bills.
Yeah, totally. I was having a conversation with a large movie theater company that we would all know and appreciate being here in Canada. But there are a lot of their workforce, they just have a couple shifts, right? Like I may not be full time. And if I'm a young professional, and I know there's the world of instant gratification, of like, we need things now. We need an Uber now. We need to buy things now. We have Amazon now. There's that whole generation that's used to that type of convenience. So the on-demand pay and flexible pay touches on that for sure. And if I'm an employer offering that and it allows my frontline staff to access funds right away, maybe I would take an extra shift. Maybe I would take a third shift or a fourth shift because I have that access. Because if I'm only doing 1 or 2 shifts in a 2-week period, I have to wait 2 weeks to get and I'm getting an hourly minimum wage. That's going to be tough, right? Like, yeah, I might just go to a different company or someone down the street that can pay right away and or have a different type of, or has more shifts for us. You know what I mean? Or for myself. So you nailed it. Yeah, I think for those industries that have the workforce that is maybe not all full-time, but they have a huge hourly workforce where it's just maybe it's a younger generation, but it's on shift work. It definitely touches on that from an HR perspective too.
I'm thinking from like sales commission. Like you close the deal, like, I think of, on our team, it's like if I was a sales rep and I closed the deal and I could unlock that
right away,
sweet cheddar, that would be amazing.
Right? Buy that watch, buy that car,
Isn't that what we all want salespeople to do, is like live just above their means? So they're hard to double more
means. I mean, as a fellow salesperson, and I've come from HR too, like I would appreciate that, a portion of it. Not saying that you want to take all of that right away and go wild by any means, but like I do think that it's there's something to be said for that, right? That's exciting. You don't have to wait a month. You can access it right away. And if I'm a salesperson and the whole instant gratification, I think that's awesome. So
A portion of it or a Porsche of it? Because, like,
yeah,
it's that surprise Porsche payment that, you need to make because you know that you just landed this deal and now you've like,
yeah,
the contract
like,
is signed and you're waiting for your quarterly commission. Because that's the other thing is like there's some compensation that's not paid biweekly or monthly. Like it could be paid quarterly. Like you've earned it,
yeah,
but
yeah.
can
If
you
I can come back with an inappropriate Porsche payment and I can say that to my family, I think that's a win right there, and say, hey, look, I just jumped the gun. I think we need this for the whole family. So, no, but I do think that is, and there are tons of comp plans out there with commission that, to your point, are quarterly. They take a couple months to go through. And those are things, even if a savvy saver is like, I would rather put that in an investment fund right away, then you're thinking about those couple months that it's not sitting in an employer's bank account, it's in your bank account and you're doing what you want with it because you earned it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is possible, but like, can you do like retirement savings? Like, could you actually use that for savings? Like if you were going to cross an RRSP deadline, you could use that in theory, kind of like an RRSP loan.
It's funny that you mentioned that. Someone did a presentation. I think they were part of Ivy, and they were doing a presentation for us regarding new innovative ways that would be beneficial for workforces. That came up, being like it automatically, if you take it out, there's a percentage that you put towards your RSPs or like some sort of investment or your retirement, and it's something that you just bake in as a part of a benefit suite. That you can click on as an employee, being like, hey, if I can take out this commission right away, a percentage of it's going to be automatically taken. Just like you can program that through your bank accounts usually, but you can automatically do that through this app. So that has actually come up a couple of times now. That's a great idea.
That is very cool. That is very, very cool. I mean, how do you measure success of pay innovation like this? Like, I mean,
It's interesting because the ethos around what it is we're doing is around improving financial wellness, decreasing financial stress, allowing a portion, not a Porsche per se, of money taking out. But do we want people to get out of their paycheck to paycheck lifestyle? How do you do that? Well, yes, you want them to be like have a more responsible lever that they can pull if an emergency comes. But on top of that, how do we know that they're also using the education? How do we know that they're also using the budgeting tools? How do we know that they're using all the other financial wellness pieces that we have as part of our engagement suite? Well, we have to track that, right? And I think there's a fine line of them moving. And I think there's guardrails that we have put up as a company that isn't necessarily widespread across the EWA community, where you're only allowed a certain percentage, but there's also these educational things. And we've seen employers say, hey, when you onboard, you have to do this budgeting course through ZayZoon. It's like, oh, okay. So it's that people are baking this into. So when we look at our data on our customer success and our account management, we say, okay, well, there was some people had used the EWA or the on-demand pay portion. That's great. But people are also leveraging the other pieces of the app. And that, from our point, is we're providing more value that doesn't cost them anything beyond just having that flexible pay. So I think that's the real win, right? And then those stories that we hear about the hospital being like, hey, this really impacted their lives immediately. And now I could afford, like, we have so many different great use cases and stories from different industries and frontline workers and salaried workers too, saying, hey, this really saved me. Like, even if I had to pay cash, no one has cash anymore, right? Like I had to pay cash to this contractor and I didn't have any money because it's all in my bank accounts and investments. Like I was just going to quickly use ZayZoon and then I can take it out. And so there's like beyond some of the really impactful stories are just some of these day-to-day stories that things come up. right? And it's a need-based service, not a want-based service is how we think about it. They look to it when it's like insurance. No one wants to talk about it like about a crash or an automobile crash, but you have insurance just in case. This is almost something that will become ubiquitous across Canada, where on-demand pay will be part of all payroll, will be part of all types of benefits, but it allows you to just have that portion when something comes up.
And I guess, how do you convince, the cautious finance team?
Very good question. We talk about this a lot, as you can imagine. I was talking to a CFO, right? We were doing a lot of customer interviews these past 2 weeks of like really understanding and understanding the why behind why they chose ZayZoon. Like what was the reason? What was the benefit? What have they seen? What has changed? Like, very powerful conversations in any company that's growing is to really create this kind of customer-centric type of philosophy. But what we learned from a CFO, at least, they said that, hey, people are coming, and this is the most obvious use case. Sometimes this doesn't happen, but hey, people are coming and they're asking for advances. And it's costing me as a business $100 to do this and a lot of administrative work and payroll burden. Like, we don't want to do that. And this was like a high volume security type company. And this is costing business time, resources. I had to hire someone to do this type of stuff. Now I don't need to. And then if you zoom out, because there's also a lot of times where people are feeling a little embarrassed to ask for an advance from their employer, rightfully so. That's a really awkward conversation. I certainly wouldn't want to do that. You would just move on, being like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not going to go to my manager. You may not even have the best relationship, let alone asking them for money. You don't know how they may perceive that. So totally understand that.
That's why you go to payday loans.
Yeah.
That's why, you're
other options, right?
Yeah. Like you have money you earned kind of that you can't access. And then, then you have to go, you got to get 200 for 20 plus,
Yeah. The interest is through the roof, like 300% or something. And then you get stuck, and it's like, it is just, it's horrible. But like, if I'm a CFO, I also think just make sure you don't disrupt payroll. We all know the story of the federal government with that Firefox payroll that went. People are still being inappropriately paid from that. Like, the last thing you want to do is stamp your name on something that's disrupted in payroll. People don't get paid and whatnot. So ensuring that the integration and relationship with that payroll system from a financial aspect, it has to be that risk has to be so low that they feel like, okay, this is just a value add. Maybe it decreases advances completely. Maybe it helps with turnover and retention, so I don't have to hire as much because we're competing with talent in home care or security, you name it. So there's a retention play there from financial, but it's also like, don't fuck up my payroll. Like very simple. Please don't. And show me how you won't do that, right? So anyway.
That would suck. That would suck. Well, I mean, Sean, I got an existential question for you before we go. Like, what's the next evolution of compensation? Like, where is this going?
Yeah, you know what? We think about this a lot, and I do think that on-demand pay will be everywhere. I think it'll be part of all, to a certain degree, right? Like, we have different levels. There's some different things within on-demand pay, like pay cards and direct deposits, and putting that now on digital wallets. And we think Bitcoin, and we think about the stable coins that are coming out. Like, how are we now moving money from I think there's an open banking conversation across Canada that's a big topic in the financial world, but then from payments and compensation, how are there different forms of payment? Like, but where can I put that on a digital wallet, or as opposed to just direct deposit? So I think we're going to find different innovative ways to move money faster in newer wallets, and new digital wallets and stable coins, and you name it. Because I feel like that is where we're slowly heading. I will say emphasis slowly heading. And I think that on-demand pay, just the convenience of it, will just be ubiquitous, part of all payroll. The only reason it isn't now is because of like payroll interest and banks and all of that. But I think those barriers are getting broken down. So we'll see. But I just think there will be a whole different world of wallets and moving money.
Just money straight to that stable coin or that Bitcoin.
Exactly. That's what I can do. Like, I mean, putting all my money on this stable coin. Do I know where it is or how it works? No, of course not. But that's okay. Like, I can just tell people that I have it, and it's pretty cool.
But the internet said it was going to be great.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Sean, thank you for coming. To our listeners, if this episode made you rethink how you pay your people, go do one thing this week. Ask your HR or payroll team, could we move the payment timing needle? And if you found value here, share this episode with a peer. in people or talent who still treats payday like history. Thanks for joining us, Sean. And to you listeners, we'll catch you next time on What the FTE.